Welcome to the latest edition of the In the Huddle podcast. Thank you, as always, for checking us out, whether you're doing so on YouTube or on Spotify or the Odyssey app or wherever. We're everywhere, and please subscribe and follow if you enjoy what we do. I'm Jason Canfora. I'm joined, as always, by Brian Baldinger, Baldy Breakdowns. Carl Dukes will be back with us next week. As you guys know, the three of us are always rotating in some capacity, and we've got a lot to get to this week. There's Davante Adams news. There's teams chasing Davante Adams. There's some big matchups this week, including a couple of big divisional games. There's a matchup in the AFC between two teams that most people fancy as Super Bowl contenders. So that's a little bit of our roadmap, Baldy. But we'll start with Davante Adams. And this is a guy who I think it's 1,100 receiving yards or more in 4 straight years. I think it's 100 catches or more in 4 straight years. This is a guy who, throughout his Green Bay career, you could pencil in for double-digit touchdown receptions every year. And it looks like he's done in Las Vegas. And it certainly sounds to me like the trade deadline's coming early this year, Baldy, because we're barely in October, and this guy's days are numbered in the desert.
Well, he's done. He's done with the Raiders. He's not going to play with the Raiders. They play Denver this week, and they've got a stranglehold on Denver, so he's not going to play. So, the quicker they could probably move him, the better for everybody, for the Raiders. What they're doing, and sort of kind of the youth movement. Some of the guys they've got going on there, but it's just a question of what's the landing zone. It's an expensive ticket, but is he the missing piece? And there's a lot of teams that could use Davante. I don't have any insight. I mean, you could just start with the Jets and his relationship with Aaron. And the passing game was broken last week with what Aaron Rodgers was doing with Aaron Gibson, or Xavier Gibson, and Garrett Wilson. As good as he is, like there's just a disconnect there between the two, and it showed up when they needed it the most last week. And there was complete frustration. Alan Lazard is playing his role, and Mike Williams keeps coming on. But can Davante? I don't know. Can you put him on the Concorde and get him to London? For Sunday. There's just so. I mean, that's obviously the Chiefs need a receiver with the loss of Rashee Rice, but I don't know why the Raiders would trade in their own division. But
right?
Who knows? It has happened before. And, so you can just go through the list of teams. Could Washington use him on a team that is really, really good offensively, and maybe with what they have is enough. Maybe they don't need, another guy like that. An 11-year veteran. I mean, you just go through the list of teams right now that could use him, and I don't know, like you could just kind of places.
Well, here's what I'm hearing from people involved in the process. Like those teams have interest. I mean, why wouldn't you? Who wouldn't have interest in Davante Adams? Buffalo has interest. Pittsburgh has interest. I've heard Baltimore's at least made exploratory phone calls. So there's a lot of teams who feel like he could help put them over the top. The contract is an issue, right? It's unwieldy. You've got future years. You've got cap ramifications. So he can control the process because he's going to streamline it for who he wants to streamline it for. And you're right. To this point, his representatives have made it clear to the Raiders and other teams that his preference would be Aaron Rodgers or Derek Carr, right? Those are his quarterbacks. Those are his guys. New Orleans or the Jets. A lot of GMs I've talked to think the Jets will ultimately get this done. The Jets are in a desperate situation. And the Jets are, let's frank, like they've overpaid before. Like, I mean, who else gave Aaron Rodgers what they gave Aaron Rodgers, right? So they're in a bit of a dire circumstance. I think it's going to end up being a 3rd-round pick and then probably another pick dependent on how he performs, a 2026 pick, or maybe there's a marginal player in there as well. But these tales being told about 2 plus something else, that just doesn't ring true with the people I'm talking to. And the hamstring injury, at least from what the Raiders are telling people, like it's not a complete fallacy. He obviously wouldn't have played this week anyway. Could he come back? If we made a trade in week 6, could he play for you week 6? There's a chance he could. So I think this does happen. Like by the time we do our first pod next week, I think Davante Adams is traded, and I think it's going to be the Jets. Let's drill down on the state of the Jets. Baldy, through 4 games last year with Zach Wilson as the quarterback, they averaged 4.7 yards per play. You want to take a gander as to what they're averaging per play this year with Aaron Rodgers and their new offensive line and all that stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw them last week, and so I would say they're probably around 4.7 or 4.8 right now.
It's 4.8, Baldy. It's 4.8. Progress.
Yeah.
Progress. Breece Hall through 4 games last year was averaging over 6 yards per carry. This year, despite all those upgrades and having a world-class quarterback who's going to change the way people defend them, he's averaging half of that. They're 27th in the NFL in rushing right now. Garrett Wilson has fewer targets, fewer receptions, fewer yards, and fewer touchdowns with Aaron Rodgers through 4 weeks than he had with Stifler through 4 weeks last year. That's fact.
Yeah.
They're throwing to running backs 25% of the time. They're not pushing the ball downfield. When they need a play, and this is what people who face them are telling me, D coordinators, when they need a play, the ball's going to the running back. It's going to Breece Hall or it's going to Lazard. It's become really easy to figure things out. People are skeptical that Nathaniel Hackett's going to reinvent the wheel on the fly or that the quarterback even wants him to. And it's clear that Saleh and Aaron Rodgers aren't exactly bosom buddies.
Yeah.
How deep are these problems, and could Davante Adams fix it all himself?
I don't look. So, look, this game in London to me, it's the Jets season. I mean, if you somehow beat the Vikings, who are a real quality team and well coached, you find a way to beat the Vikings. They kind of make that ugly loss in New York or at the Meadowlands just go away, and you get 3-2 and you feel good about yourself, and we'll see. But the running game is not there. Breece Hall ran 10 times for 4 yards last year. I love what Vance Joseph is doing, but don't tell me Breece Hall can't get a yard.
Right.
You can't get a yard, a run. Don't tell me that. So there's some real problems for sure. Aaron Rodgers dropped back 52 times last week in a game where they were winning 6-0. They had the ball at the 1 yard line after a defensive pass interference call. They couldn't score. They couldn't score, Jason. The pre-snap penalties, they had 5 of them last week. Just illegal procedure calls. I mean, this is not a well-coached team right now. Defensively, I mean, they can't play a whole lot better. They held Bo Nix to 60 yards. They had a couple runs in the 1 touchdown drive. They gave up 1 touchdown. They should win that game defensively. And that's without C.J. Mosley, and that's with Jermaine Johnson and no Hassan Reddick. They're still playing good defense. But, defense is only hold it together so long, Jason, when they feel like they have to, because it's been happening to this defense, where the offense doesn't support them. It happened all year last year. At some point, the dam breaks.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, guys are like, "Well, I'm going to go get my numbers.
Yep.
I'm going to take some gambles. So you can only hold that together so long. To me, this is pivotal. They go to London and get blown out. I don't care if they get Davante Adams or not. It's going to be like this whole thing could just be like this. You can feel the inferno already beginning to burn. Yeah. Garrett Wilson's calling out his coach, I watch teams and they look like they do a whole lot more than we do, and they do.
Yeah. So, right. There's more motion. There's more pre-snap movement, right? I mean, this is a very static offense, is it not?
Yeah, no, there's nothing like what Minnesota does, and what some of these San Francisco does, or like some of these teams that are really manipulating the defense and really getting them to freeze to get what they want. What Tampa did to Philadelphia last week, you just don't see that right now. I mean, I know, I talked to Patrick Surtain last week. He was looking forward to throwing a wet blanket over Garrett Wilson. He did, except for 1 throw down the field. But you knew that going in. So where is that man beater against Surtain? It really didn't shake out very well.
Baldy, here's another cause for concern for me. So they've been held to 265 net yards or less in 3 of their 4 games. The only team they move the ball on is New England, a divisional team who they know inside out.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. The first 3 weeks, Aaron Rodgers was basically the least blitzed quarterback in the NFL, and they still had a staccato offense. Now Vance Joseph says, I'm going to blitz him on 1 of every 2 dropbacks and see what that looks like. Complete annihilation. Flores hasn't been blitzing as much this year, but he led the league in blitzing last year. And if you're Brian Flores, you've now faced in successive weeks Kyle Shanahan, the master, right? Bobby Slowick, maybe the next one up. LaFleur, the second to the master. And now you get Hackett in this derivation of the same offense. And I'm supposed to believe that Minnesota's not going to suffocate these guys?
Well, I can't figure out Brian Flores' defense. I don't know if anybody can. They're the only team in the league that I see that will line up in actually a 3-deep coverage. I mean, 3 guys on any second or third and long situation. And they're going to keep everything in front of you. Their fronts are as multiple as they can be. They play a lot of different people in a lot of different places. They're not an easy team to game plan. They had Green Bay dead in the water. Now, Jordan Love played great in the fourth quarter, and they got some plays. But, they had that game in hand, and that will happen in team. Statistics can be manipulated a little bit. But, I mean, they had Jordan Love and Green Bay. Like, they completely befuddled them. And you talked to C.J. Stroud the week before. He went up to Brian Flores after the game and said, I've never seen anything like it. We held him to 7 points. And it was the worst game C.J. Stroud ever played. Yeah. So he has that effect on quarterbacks. And you get him the third down, the junk that he throws at you, it's not easy to figure out. Your protections are going to get challenged. And so they want you to get the ball out quick, and they rally to the ball. They have a lot of, philosophies. And Brian's a master. This is not an easy game this week. But like I said, you find a way to win this game. And good luck. I mean, look, will Sauce travel with Justin Jefferson? I think Minnesota hopes he does, because they'll use him in decoys in different ways to get the ball to Jalen Nailor, to a bunch of. And look, I mean, Aaron Jones lines up everywhere, and he looks like Aaron Jones to me.
Yes, he does.
The way he has for most of his career.
Yeah. Look, I'm on this game in a couple different ways. I jumped on the Jets on the look ahead line when you could have got them at +1. I jumped on them again at -2.5. I'm sorry, the Vikings. I jumped on the Vikings. Yeah. The Vikings have covered 7 straight games when their preferred starting quarterback is available. The Vikings, Baldy, outdoors since 2021, the Vikings are 13-6-3 against the spread. 684 winning percentage, first in the NFL. Robert Saleh has struggled to cover his whole career, especially on the road or neutral situations. Favorites in Europe, 13-15 against the spread the last 45 meetings. 7 straight games played in Europe have gone under the number. Since 2020, games kicking off at 9:30 a.m. are 16-6 to the under. This number's come down, but I would still play the under. Baldy, the Kansas City Chiefs are a team that could use Davante Adams. As great as they are, and as much as they keep winning, and they're the little engine that could, or maybe the big engine that could. The red zone offense has been an issue since the start of last season. They did get Kelsey going last week. No Derwin James. I figured that would happen, but there's still work to be done. Now they lose Rice. Hollywood Brown was never going to play a snap for them. The quarterback is not playing Patrick Mahomes type football. The defense, though, is otherworldly. What do you think about the state of the Kansas City Chiefs? And I've had some GMs whisper to me that they've got their eye on Christian Kirk, which he does kind of look like an Andy Reid receiver to me.
They need a receiver. There's no question about it. But, this team is fueled by their defense. I mean, Spags is unbelievable. There's the Chargers on the 1-yard line last week. They can't score. This is Harbaugh. Like, he's coming up with these gimmicks and these spread offenses. Like, they couldn't get a yard against the Chiefs. I mean, Chris Jones he's just a difference maker, Jason. Like, his ability to either third downs or at the end of the game, take over a game, it never ends. He's going to find whatever weakness you have on the offensive line. He's going to exploit that weakness. And to me, Trevor Penning is the weakness in New Orleans. Like, he's going to see him. Cesar Ruiz is going to see Chris Jones. But everything around it, like, they still attack you. They still get their free hitters. I mean, look, Kansas City won the game last week because they hit Xavier Worthy on a go route for 55 yards, and that was their big score. They did get Travis Kelce going early. They drew up a bunch of plays for him. They got the ball in his hands. But, honestly, whether – I don't know. Like, everybody slows down. He's just slowed down. He just doesn't have the same burst to get open as quickly as he used to. And so Mahomes only going to wait so long, and he's going to move on. And that's his favorite guy. That's his guy. So New Orleans honestly could be 4-0 right now, Jason. Like, how they lost to the Eagles on a man coverage route where they got last week Debo gives up a pass interference call that he had a bunch of them now.
Yeah.
They play a lot of man coverage, but Younghoe Koo goes 58 yards.
At the buzzer, yeah.
Atlanta didn't score a touchdown in the game, and they won the game. So New Orleans is a good football team. They do a lot of things really well. They challenge your receivers. Alontae Taylor, Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, they're good. They're really good all the way around. Like this, I know Kansas City's at home, but I don't know about the home field advantage. Honestly, with the way New Orleans is playing, I kind of like New Orleans in this game.
To win, you like New Orleans? You think New Orleans is live to win this game?
I feel like they should have won. Honestly, they could easily be 4-0. They're a very, very good football team.
What about the state of the New Orleans offense, though? Right, there was a tale of two seasons already. Right, it's the first 2 weeks where nobody can stop them. All of a sudden, they've got a red zone finishing offense, and they're not punting. The last 2 weeks, they're averaging 18 points a game. Now, I think the level of competition certainly has something to do with that. It tends to be hard to get touchdowns when they play the Falcons. So, I get some of that, but the Derek Carr the last 2 weeks looks a whole lot more to me like the Derek Carr 2023 and 2022 than it does the Derek Carr of September 2024.
They're not getting the ball to Rashid Shaheed right now, and they did the first 2 weeks, and the offense, really, and Camaro was unbelievable the first 2 weeks. Now Carolina was in there, so there were some bad teams. Look, this is going to be a defensive battle. I mean, this is going to be a low scoring game. I don't expect a lot of pop and firepower. Tyrann Mathieu is back there. He knows Patrick Mahomes and what Andy Reid does as well as anybody. He's just a thief waiting for his 36th career interception right now. Spags will tell you he's as talented a player as he's ever coached. He's having a good season. They're good. Like this, I don't know what the under is at JC. What is it, 43?
You can still shop around and get it at 44 and go under. I'll get to that in a minute, but yeah.
Yeah, but I look at the under in this game and I know the Chiefs are at home, but look, if you look at this Thursday night game, if Tampa wins this game and they get to 4-1 and New Orleans loses, you're looking at a big separation already between Tampa and the rest of the division. They're going to get a chance to kind of look at that tonight and go, we could be, whatever happens tonight. Like New Orleans is looking at this division going, we could win it, but we can't get too far behind right now.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on the under here, Baldy. And by the way, I really think the Kansas City Chiefs missed Jerick McKinnon. You look at their efficiencies in the red zone with him over the previous 2 years versus now. The only guy who saw more of the ball in the red zone than Jerick McKinnon was Travis Kelce. So they've got some stuff to fix. But they're a bottom 10 red zone offense since the start of 2023. New Orleans is a top 5 red zone defense since the start of 2022. That's how these games go under. 3, not 7. Kansas City at home since the start of last season, 8-3 to the under at home. Those games average just 41 points. New Orleans is a road under team, 6-4 to the under in their last 10. New Orleans against the AFC, last 15 games, 11 have gone under. Those games average just 38.6 points. Patrick Mahomes for his career against the NFC, 15-10 to the under. Patrick Mahomes, 6-3-1 under his last 10 against the NFC. 5 of those games didn't even get to 40 points. I'm completely with you on the under here. I want to like the Saints here, but we've seen this is what Kansas City does. If it's a low-scoring, tight game and you think it is, who wins those games? Dennis Allen or Andy Reid? You know what I mean? All 7, they've won 7 straight games, Baldy, by an average of 5 points each.
Look, Cincinnati could have easily won that game in Kansas City. The Chargers could have easily won that game last week. They find a way to win the games. They got an automatic field goal kicker from anywhere on the field. 65 yards in, Butker's going to. Yeah. It's probably automatic. Yeah. That's a great thing. But honestly, I feel like Andy Reid, if he wants to, he's got Kareem Hunt played good last week. You got Carson Steele. You got Samaje Perine. You got 3 decent backs. I feel like they could become a power football team. Mm-hmm. It's not Andy Reid. It's not what Andy wants to do at all. But that might be their best way, to kind of move the ball right now. Because honestly, Noah Gray, Justin Watson. I mean, look what you're throwing to right now. You know, it's not a lot.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think they're going to play ball control and help Spags' defense out and keep the ball moving on the ground. And you're right, great kicker. They don't care if they win 6-3 at this point. Speaking of running the football, Baldy, I didn't think the Baltimore Ravens would be able to be this much better than everybody else in the world running the football again this different way, this quickly. But they are. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry have combined for 788 rushing yards already this year. Their running backs, Justice Hill and Derrick Henry, combined for over 300 scrimmage yards against Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills. They blew the Bills out in a way the Bills don't get blown out.
Well, it's on the first play, Jason. I mean, 87 yards on a wham. It's a Patrick Ricard wham. Like, you know, I mean, you draw it up. Okay, here's the wham. Okay, here comes Ricard. Here comes on Ed Oliver. You know, here's Andrews fitting the linebacker, whatever. And he goes 87 yards and he ran away from the entire Buffalo Bills secondary. Just outran him. Like, you give that guy a runway now, as Dallas found out, and, you know, Buffalo just found out. You give him a runway, like, he's going to finish.
Forget about it.
Yeah. So, look, they found their look. They put McCarry in there at left guard. You know, he was good. He's good everywhere he plays.
Yep.
He's literally. I mean, I did start at 6 different offense line positions in my career. McCarry could do the same thing. I don't know if I think he started at center, didn't he, Jason?
Yes. He's played everywhere. He's played everywhere now. Yeah.
Everywhere he plays good. He doesn't commit penalties. He doesn't get beat. Like, he's just a smart, tough football player. And he's a luxury. Ricard's a luxury. Like, they just have these amoebas that can just go anywhere. And you can just plug them in. They kind of fix the holes. And so, you know, Rosengarten looks like he's in. And, you know, Falele looks like he's in. And, you know, the center is just all world. So, they got their 2 tight end sets. They've got that part figured out. It's going to be a challenge because I don't think Cincinnati can stop them. Cincinnati defensively is a mess.
Well, they don't have any D tackles. It's like the Dallas game all over again, right?
It is. They really. BJ Hill's been out. DJ Reader's gone. Like, you know, Lou Anarumo is a talented guy. They just have no way to stop you up front. Now, so what you do if you're Lou Anarumo is like, okay, we know we can't stop them, but we got to make them bleed a little bit. We can't give them 87-yard runs.
Yeah.
So we got to just
run blitz
the box. You know, like, take our chance. But I know this. I know Joe Burrow is on fire right now. He's got everything he needs. T. Higgins is back. You know, Jamar is Jamar. Asavash is like incredible. They got the backs. Like the rookie right tackle, Amarius Mims, played well. I feel like Joe knows he's got to put up a 30 spot. And this might be whoever has the ball last. Cincinnati knows, like, they're at home. They haven't won at home. They kind of know that this is their season. Either Baltimore's going to run away with this thing or Cincinnati's going to make a play. And Burrow knows he's got to be – I mean, he was really good the last 2 weeks, but they literally have got to put touchdowns up almost every drive right now.
Well, let's go to that side of this matchup. Last week, to me, even just looking at some of the shots of him on the sideline, Zach Orr, to me, looked as most comfortable, as most at home in his own skin. Like, that looked like the Ravens defense. More of the exotic blitzing. When he brought the DBs, they got home on Josh Allen. They affected him. Josh Allen was not comfortable in any way, shape, or form. Kyle Van Noy's playing out of his mind right now. And I look at Joe Burrow, and when Wink Martindale was the D coordinator in Baltimore and he blitzed like crazy, Joe Burrow absolutely destroyed the Ravens defense and probably got Wink Martindale fired. Mike McDonald faced him 4 times. Joe Burrow was 1-3. He averaged just 5.9 yards per attempt, a quarterback rating of just 85 against that defense the last 2 years. Never threw for more than 222 yards in a game against them. Do you think Zach Orr is going to, like, he knows the blueprint. He was in all those planning meetings. He knows how McDonald called the game on the headset. Can this version of the Ravens defense come close to bottling them up like McDonald did?
Jamar Chase has destroyed this team. You know, I mean, he's some of his biggest games against Baltimore. Like, I hope they don't put Marlon Humphrey on him. Like, that's not a good matchup.
No.
For Baltimore right now. You got to mask some of that. You got to really you have to keep Joe guessing at least until the snap. I mean, he lets you. He wants to spread you out. That's what he wants to do, and he wants to. He wants 2.5 seconds to go through his progressions to find the guy. That you give Joe that, and he will carve you up because he's flawless in his delivery and mechanics, the whole thing. You have to disrupt him, and that's what I think Mike McDonald has done. But the ball's coming out fast. T. Higgins is all the way back. He's a big part of this thing. Like, he's got his offense right now. I think this is Cincinnati's season. Like, they could get back into this race with this win, this Sunday. I'm going to be there Sunday. I'm really looking forward to it. Look, Zach Orr, like, there was major improvement last week. Can they take another step this week? And so that's the question for Baltimore. I just can't see Cincinnati stopping this running game at all right now. Like, they're really struggling defensively. So the pressure's on Joe just to match scores right now. And if whoever can get that one big key takeaway might be the difference in the game, Jason.
Yeah, I'm on the Ravens here. I just, to your point, I just think they can play keep away, and they can take a bad defense and keep it on the field way longer than it can stand to be on the field. And I think that's a problem. Lamar Jackson has played tremendous football in Cincinnati, just down the road from Louisville. It's almost like a home game for him. Lamar is 5-2 against the spread, his last 7 against Cincinnati. Lamar Jackson, as a favorite of 3 points or less, is 24-5 against the spread for his career. As I mentioned, Joe Burrow has struggled against this defense. There are some indicators this might go over. These two teams have tended to play over. Yeah.
These 48.5 leaves a little light to me in this game.
Yeah. This game could be played in the 50s. If you do back the Ravens, you should be doing it more on the road than at home. Ravens are 7-3 against the spread, their last 10 road games. If Cincinnati wins, then it's like I'm with you 1,000%, Baldy. September doesn't matter. They told you before September doesn't matter, and away we go in the AFC North. If they lose, I think they're cooked. There's just too many more good teams on their schedule.
That's a big crypt to dig yourself out of if they lose. And then losing another game at home.
Yeah. Let's go to the Buffalo Bills, who again got railroaded in a way that it just doesn't happen. In that game. It's the first time where I think maybe if you wanted to nitpick about their decisions at wide receiver, you could, right? Shakir makes one play on a busted play where Josh Allen throws a ball across his body halfway out of bounds that most human beings can't do, right? So they pick up 50-yard chunk play there on a busted play. That's it for downfield passing attack the entire game. Defensively, they I don't know. They didn't blitz that much. Like, they didn't go to their heavy personnel. They just kind of stayed light and got run all over. And Baltimore can do that to people. Mm-hmm. And the Texans, to me, Baldy, all season long, even when they've won games, have kind of left me wanting a little bit more. Well, like, they don't seem to have a killer instinct. Like, they don't seem to know who they are, which is right now, your quarterback probably needs to throw it 45 times early and often, and you need to build up a big lead.
Well, here's a couple things, Jason. So I'm watching the game against Jacksonville, and I'm seeing one penalty after another, especially in the offensive line.
Tunsil. What happened to Tunsil?
Okay. So he went out of the game, and the rookie from Notre Dame came in for a while. But, like, the penalties on the left side, Kenyon Green and Tunsil, like, they were constantly eliminating big plays. And you look at Houston right now, they're a 20-point offense, Jason. Yeah. They should be better. Nico is all-world. Diggs has his role. It's not anything close to Nico. Nico's to go. They play without Tank Dell. They miss Joe Mixon a lot. Hadn't been out there. And so they're just cobbling that running back position together. But they're the most penalized team in the league. The most. Like, that doesn't sound like something that would sit real well with that coach. He just doesn't seem like a guy that's going to allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's going to stop, but it's really like Jacksonville could have easily won that game. They couldn't score from the 1-yard line again. They could have gone up 10 to start the fourth quarter, and maybe it would have been a little more tougher. They played poorly in Minnesota. Like, the penalties are really hurting this team right now. And defensively, they're good, but you would have thought with Danielle Hunter and, what they have, Will Anderson, you would have thought they would be better at pressure taken away, and they really haven't been. If Trevor Lawrence could hit Brian Thomas on a go route, just one of them, they'd probably run away with that game. Like, he missed 3 of them to Brian Thomas. So, I feel like Buffalo could get back on track here.
Mm-hmm.
They got to play their style of football, though. And Houston has to just, honestly, they're their own worst enemy right now. They're a better team than 20 points a game. That's what they are right now.
Yeah. I just feel like they lack a cutting edge and a killer instinct on both sides of the ball. And when they've had chances to establish themselves as the better football team in a lot of these games, they just even the Chicago Bears game where that game. I mean, they let the Bears hang around. They didn't want to take deep shots, or not even deep shots. Okay, against that defense, not intermediate shots. Like they just didn't seem like they wanted to strut their stuff and put them away. And now the longer that goes, you start to say, CJ Stroud at home, you could pencil him in for 300 passing yards, right? And
he would have 300 last. He would have 300 last week, Jason, if not for the penalties.
He still went over 300.
Yeah.
Like he's going to throw for I don't think they're going to run the ball in the Buffalo Bills. Like I don't think they can really run the ball right now. And I think
I don't know what Joe Mixon's status is. Is he out?
Right. I mean, so I haven't played this game. I have bet those other games, as I told you. I'm always upfront about what I've played and what's a lean. I lean to the under here. Houston 8-3 to the under at home since the start of last season. Those games average 43.6 points. Buffalo on the road 7-3 to the under since the start of last season. So we got under trends on both sides. I think the Buffalo Bills reestablished James Cook here. Like if you would have told me the Buffalo Bills are going to go to Baltimore and James Cook's only going to touch the ball 10 times, I would have said you're out of your mind. But that's what happened. Game flow and things got away from them. Right?
He's too good of a back.
Yeah. So they'll run it through him. I think Josh Allen will take off and run on this offense a few times, but that's bleeding time off the clock. So I lean under, and I'm with you. If you made me pick a side here, I would take the Buffalo Bills. I think this is a spot for them to show that they're for real, and I've got some concerns. Excuse me, about Houston right now. Final game of the week, Baldy, and this to me is going to be an old school slobber knocker. The Denver Broncos, off of that victory over the Jets, which it was flawed. I mean, what did Bo Nix throw for 83 yards or something
60.
Like that? I mean, yeah.
60 total yards.
Yeah, so there's that. And everybody always seemingly wants to write the Raiders off and always wants to write Antonio Pierce off. And I get it. He does things a little differently, and he calling guys out and business decisions. We can say what we want.
Well,
but the man is now 9-3-1 against the spread as an NFL head coach, which makes him very popular with my wallet and in my house.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, I'll be it. Cleveland is a flawed team.
Yes.
But without Max Crosby last week, that defense played lights out hard. They were Adam Butler was possessed. Christian Wilkins, Tyree Wilson, guys that, Snowden, some of these guys that nobody knows about, like Janarius Robinson, they played their asses off in that game. They harassed to the final play, the final fourth down attempt by Deshaun Watson that he never got off. They harassed him all game. And, they're playing this Jackson Powers Johnson at left guard, and they look decent up front right now. They ran the ball a little bit better. The Raiders, they rallied around that coach last week. There's no question about it. And they played with the spirit that Max Crosby plays with. Like, I believe that's who they are, and they have to play that way. Very emotional, very, spirited. I think they'll give Denver everything they have. Denver's offense isn't very good. Bo Nix, if he doesn't turn it over like last week, they have a chance to win it. Defensively, they are very sound, and they are very good. They're a very talented defense. They really don't have weaknesses anywhere. The secondary is outstanding. The only thing they gave up last week was a couple of defensive pass interference penalties by Riley Moss, but he's still a really good player. So they played a kid Sternab at middle linebacker for Alex Singleton. I didn't know nothing about the kid. All I know is the kid just made one tackle after another, which tells me they get the next guy ready to go. And that's a credit to Vance. This 35, I can't see this thing hitting 35. I mean, this looks like a field goal game. If it snows, it won't, what I mean? It's Denver and first week in October, who knows? But I just feel like this thing is going to be 13-10, 16-13, 16-14. It's going to be right there.
I'm totally with you, Baldy. Before I get to why, just strategically, does Vance Joseph need to blitz this team as much as he's been blitzing other people, as much as he blitzed Aaron Rodgers? Does he need to go that route to bottle up a Raiders team that, let's face it, Davante Adams isn't playing? They haven't got the ball to Bowers the last few weeks like I thought they would have, and they've really struggled to run the football.
Well, I'm curious. I mean, I'm a huge Patrick Surtain fan. Like you can't get the smile off Patrick Surtain's face. He's just a happy kid and he loves to play. But I kind of feel like Van says, "Hey Pat, you want this Bowers kid? You want this rookie? Like I know he's 245 pounds, but I think you can play it. Like it won't surprise me to see them have some sort of a, the old basketball thing, Jason, a box and one, and just let Surtain go with him. Because I don't know that you have to worry about Jacoby Myers or Trey Tucker. Some of these guys, I know Tucker can run, but I don't know. Like Bowers looks like it's pretty quickly going. The offense is going through him. I don't know if they, the only thing I'd say about the blitzing thing, Jason, is, they hit Aaron Rodgers 15 times last week, and they sacked him 5 or 6 times. I mean, that's a pretty good formula. If they're not picking it up and you're chasing the quarterback, and maybe you force them into a mistake, like. Why wouldn't you if you feel like you can cover your back end on that?
Yeah. Again, if you're a new school NFL fan and you love points and you love fantasy football, this is not the game for you. But I will be intrigued by it because whoever wins it is going to have a little bit of momentum and all of a sudden is going to start feeling viable as we head towards Halloween, right? Like they're going to feel like, hey, we everything's in front of us. I have bet this game. I've bet this game more than one time, and I've consistently bet the under. You could have got it.
This, Jason, have the Raiders won 8 in a row? Do you have that stat?
Yes. The Raiders look. The Raiders have won 8 in a row against Denver. They've won 10 of the last 11 against Denver. The Raiders are 12-1 against the spread. Their last 13 meetings against Denver. Wow. They've absolutely positively had their number. Denver's 3-13 against the spread since 2016 against the Raiders. 11 of their last 16 meetings between these teams, though, Baldy, have gone under. 7 of their last 13 meetings have gone under 37, where this thing opened. The look ahead was 39.5. Yeah, there's strong trends to the under here. Like that's where I am on this game in general. I'm with you. I think it could be 13-12, 17-14, maybe, probably more like 17-13. I don't think there's going to be many touchdowns. Denver's allowing 13.8 points per game. The Raiders, since Antonio Pierce took over in the middle of last season, allow 18.5 points per game. And if you think this number's low, and it is, since 2020, NFL games that closed at 37 or less have gone 73% to the under. So the rule is if it's set that low, it probably ain't low enough. Like it probably ain't low enough. So I'm with you. I am on the I'm on the under there. Where are you this weekend, Baldy?
I'm in Cincinnati. I'm in the jungle.
Oh boy.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get a pick. Like I've gotten to know Derrick Henry over the years. I hope he's out there in the field before the game. I actually just want to have somebody snap a picture of me with Derrick so people can understand
how large he is,
how large this man is, and the presence that he presents. First of all, he's the world's nicest guy. Treats everybody the same. Like he's just a wonderful, wonderful person. But when I look at a running back eye to eye, and I think sometimes he's bigger than me, I just want people to realize this is a defensive end in a world-class speed body. Like it's just there's nobody else that we've ever seen quite like it.
Yeah, don't forget about Justice Hill also. Every week.
Hill, Jason, one thing about Justice Hill, like I did his games when he was at Oklahoma State. In that year that he went to the combine, he was the fastest back at the combine. Like he ran to the 4.3s. He's got a burst. They never really used him much. I know he was injured a couple of years, but they really got a role for him right now. And and he's an explosive back. He was the best back in the Big 12. His last year there at Oklahoma State. And so people kind of forget about it because he's been on the shelf a little bit. But he's kind of emerging this year. To credit to the Ravens for just being really patient with him, Jay. Is this his 4th year? I think it's his 4th.
He's now on his 3rd contract with them. They just extended him again last year. So this has got to be I think he might have been the 2019 draft or 20.
I'll tell you in 1 second.
Yeah.
Here. I just want to know. Justice Hill was the 19 draft.
Yeah.
4th round, 2019. So here he is. He's in his 6th year.
If this is an over game and they have to go hurry up in 2 minutes and chase points, he's the guy. And all year long, I've been going Justice Hill props over receptions and over scrimmage yards. And they're gonna the numbers came up this week because of what he did last week, and everybody noticed. But it still won't scare me off it. He's going to catch 5 balls in this game. Okay. So that's just another little. I would jump that. All right. Well, listen, this has been awesome as always. We hope you guys enjoyed it. This is the In the Huddle podcast. Excuse me. I'll be back next week. Baldy will be back next week. Our buddy Carl Dukes will be back next week. We'll be breaking down everything we saw of note in week 5 and getting you set for week 6. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in again. Yeah. You can subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff. We're YouTube, Spotify, Odyssey app. We're everywhere. Just Google us, and we'll talk to you next week.